Pretty soon. Do we have enough for a quorum?
Well, not quite. Let's see what we have here. 8, 10, 12, 13, 14. We need 2 more towns. Yeah, I'll send out a real quick blast. Oh, there's John.
So we're unmuted. Oh, goodness.
Well, we're missing a town. Okay, 1, 2, 3. We have 6 towns, we need 7. So we can start, but you can't do anything. You can't take any actions.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 4:01 on Wednesday, the 10th of February. First order of business is to approve the minute. We can't approve the minutes, can we?
Nope.
But we can look at them.
And look at them. You can tell me if you have any concerns or problems, you just can't vote.
Yeah. I did not have any concerns or problems. I thought they were depicted what we did. Anybody else have any thoughts? Questions?
Had no concerns.
Well, maybe we can come back to this.
Yeah. All right, Michael.
Oh, my turn.
Happened here.
Make sure I'm not missing anybody. Somebody might be in the waiting room. I don't see anybody yet. Okay, and John O'Keefe and I have talked about this too. There's Nick. Maybe he's representing Arlington. Oh, there's Ron.
There we go.
All right, now we have enough people.
Now we have a quorum.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
We have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, wait, who seconded?
I said it.
Okay,
Sue and then Tom. All right. Any discussion? Nick, I don't know if you got to read the minutes from the last meeting. Okay, but so all in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, minutes have been approved. Back to you, Michael.
okay, so if you recall last year, we had been awarded a grant to create a permanent household hazardous waste facility at the Bennington transfer station. And you all decided, given that there were a lot of ifs and ands and buts, that maybe we should hold off at that point. The grant has come up again, and only this time, instead of it being a 60% match on the part of the state, it's a 40% match. So it means you all would have to put up more. So I resurfaced the original proposal and modified it based on some better cost estimates that I've gotten now that there's other organizations that have created permanent facilities, and sent it out to you to see if you would like me to apply and see what happens. The way it works is each is like something like $950,000. So each project can get up to $100,000. And you could put in more than one project. Well, when you do that, you have to prioritize which one is the more important one for you, or the most important one, because that way what will happen with A&R is they will review the proposals and then say, okay, we've got X number and this is what they thought were most important. So we'll only fund the next tier if there's enough money to do so. So if we wanted to put something else in, like John was talking about doing something with compost at the rec park, we would have to prioritize them. So I didn't want to miss the opportunity. So that's why I threw it together, and it's due, I think it's due March 10th. I'm open to answer any questions. It really is pretty much the same thing you did last year, except I was able to get some better cost estimates on staffing. And it looks to me like the annual cost would probably they might be a bit more than currently doing events. Now, as you know, we're going to 3 events now because we have to have an event for Stanford and Searsburg because they're beyond 20 miles. We would not have to do that. We would not have to have any events if we had this facility. It would only have to be open 2 days a week from May to October. So it wouldn't be full time. And probably the disposal costs might go up some, but certainly the time that Paul and I put into it would be reduced dramatically, as would be our advertising, because we just posted on the website, there's a facility, and go use it if you want. So there are other costs that would go down quite a bit. It's kind of a judgment call because the costs do continue to go up for the events, mostly because of disposal costs and also the setup costs. So I think I estimated we're probably going to spend about, for this calendar year, not necessarily fiscal year, about $70-some thousand for the events. And that's probably about what it would cost to have staff and a facility and the like. So most of the money, this money would go to building the facility. And we can use in kind for match as well. So for instance, if the Bennington Highway Department can put out a concrete or asphalt pad for something, that's match. You know, we don't have to. Stu may want us to pay them, but if we can do those kinds of things, then we can use that as match as opposed to having to put in money. And this would probably go over 2 fiscal years too, because I don't think the money would be awarded till probably the summer, and we wouldn't be open until 2022, late 2022 by the time we got the whole thing going. So it would be spread over a couple of your fiscal years.
Where do the staff come from, Mike? Where do we get staff to run this place?
Well, the Alliance can hire people. Actually, the Alliance can contract with people, just like you contract with BCRC. So we could conceivably contract, or the Alliance could contract with individuals, and that we would have to have trained, and just use them as part-time employees.
Okay.
I don't think there's any I don't think we would want to, it would be nice to hire somebody like Clean Harbors or US Ecology, but they're so far away. I think there's bound to be someone around the area, especially if we had, I'm just throwing this out, firemen or someone who's got some experience in training with these kinds of things that we could get other training for, and they might just be glad to have a part-time job, 10 hours a week.
So are you looking for a, what is it, level 1 certification? Is that what you need?
There's not really a specific certification. I think basically what we would need to do is have someone go spend time with one of the permanent facilities and get to know what they do.
Okay.
How they package material, how they pour off material, how they label stuff. I mean, there are some courses, but there's not like a, this is how you deal with household hazardous waste. And, you know, there's some, I think the big question, the big problems are most of the stuff we get is not problematic. It's when someone brings something that's an unknown, or we got 600 pounds of ammonium nitrate at the Dorset event last fall. So
The heck did you do with that?
we disposed of it. Didn't you hear that big boom?
Yeah, I thought there was something like that.
Yeah, that was kind of exciting. There was no fuel oil, so we were okay. But yeah, it got disposed.
Kerosene with that.
And it wasn't necessarily outrageously expensive, but it's the kind of thing that maybe takes a little more care than your normal lawn fertilizer with pesticides in it.
So what, Michael, what would would we store the materials there for a while and then have someone pick them up, or do they go directly?
No, they'd be stored and there'd be periodic pickups. And in fact, that's most of the expense is doing some rehab to the existing building there, and then buying some containers, shipping containers. There's also a shipping container that's actually fireproof. We may not need to do that, but I'd put it in there in the budget just because I don't have the expertise to do this. We would need someone to help us design it, but we would store it until such time we got enough material, and then we would call Clean Harbors, US Ecology, and say, come get it. And that's basically the way it works. And then they would charge us for disposal.
Michael, where would this facility be?
Well, our thinking had been the Bennington transfer station, because there's a building there that had been thought about for this way back when, and it's still there, and it's not really being used for anything. So if that's feasible, Casella does not want to have anything to do with this. So this is sort of unless we could work something differently out with them, we would need to operate ourselves.
And would this
We
have
could
to
find
come-
some retired person like Steve Bendix. He'd probably like to run it.
Hey, Michael, how much would it cost for the training and the permitting?
You can ask me hard questions, huh? I think I assumed permitting was about $25,000. That included design, and then training $1,500.
What about safety storage?
Michael, does this have to come before a town vote to for each town to fund their portion?
Well, actually, it's when we did the budget last time, this was already in. I put that in there, and you approved that. So I said, just in case this comes up, because at the time there was talk about this grant coming up, and but it hadn't surfaced yet. So I built it into the budget.
Okay.
Mike, if who's going to administer employees or administer the contract? Who's going to insure them? And frankly, who's going to insure this facility? I mean, I know we're talking about going into Bennington, but I would imagine there's a price to having a hazardous material site in your town. Is
Well,
any of that figured in?
You'd have to share the towns would have to share the cost for all those costs. In terms of insurance, if they're individual contractors, they have to provide their own insurance.
How many individual contractors do you know are interested in two guys a few hours a week to do this. And I don't want to build something and find out there's nobody there to do this.
Yeah. Well, I don't really know how to answer those questions, Dave. I really don't. It's just kind of like I said last time, we could try it and see how it works. You could apply for the grant and turn it down like you did before. We could look into this stuff. I'm sure we could put something out and see if anybody responds. Like, is anyone interested in doing this kind of thing, and see what kind of response we get. That's the only way to do it, is to actually talk to people. And we could put an advertisement in the paper saying this is something we're thinking about. Anyone interested, contact us. And so I just don't know, Dave. I really don't.
Yeah.
It could be that there are contractors who do other kinds of work. I mean, there's lots of people who do lead paint remediation and asbestos remediation. They might say, well, yeah, we could do this. This isn't that a big deal. We're just going to have a couple guys there, a couple hours a week. But I don't know. I've never done this, so.
Yeah, and it's not so much, I'm thinking about in the long term, because we might find somebody, a couple of people, like you just said, some asbestos guy who wants to take on a little extra work, but then he departs, the next guy departs. I mean, you can have a real revolving door here, which could be problematic with a facility like this.
Sure.
And I'm not saying don't apply for the grant, because it doesn't hurt. Apply for the grant. We get it. We don't get it. You know, that's fine. We could turn it down if we can't make it come together. But I do wonder about how actually operating it is going to be sustainable.
There is a company, Mike, that we have used in asbestos removal, and they also do bridge painting. It's Catamount Environmental. I think they're out of Wyndham or Wilmington. Relatively reasonable, and you might want to reach out to them and figure out whether or not they might be interested in supplying that manpower.
Okay.
Yeah, they're good to work with.
They're in Brattleboro, you said?
No, I think they're Wilmington, I think.
Yeah,
Oh, Wilmington.
Wilmington. I've used them a lot too. They're very good.
Michael, I have a question.
Yep.
Could you review the cost again compared to the 3 household hazardous events that we currently hold?
Well, I'm guesstimating all of this, Nancy.
Yes.
So I'm guesstimating that our 3 events are going to cost us with the disposal and then our staff time and advertising about $75,000.
Yeah,
What I came up with this was like $88,000 on an annual basis for the facility, which may be high or maybe low. So they're not super different. It does provide a lot more convenience for people to get rid of their stuff, because we only have the X number of events.
Mhm.
Go ahead,
Michael,
Steve.
yeah, is there any grant that the state might have that would do all this research work for you and cover the cost of doing all that?
No, they give us a grant every year for, we use it primarily for our household hazardous waste events. We get about $32,000 a year from A&R. And we basically, what I do with that is we figure out the costs on a quarterly basis, like how much it costs to do all the things we do, and then subtract that from what we're going to build the towns. So in other words, if we spent $50,000 and we get $32,000, and we bill $18,000. So I don't necessarily apply that to that one particular thing, but it's one way or the other. It will probably increase your costs if we would need to. That's why I build it into the grant to do the design work.
So Michael, if we get these annually, we get about 30 grand a year to run 3 household hazardous waste collection days. And that cost is 70 some odd thousand minus 30. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah. And with this 30 would still be able to apply to the facility too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that won't go away.
All right.
That. Like I said, the grant, it's called the SWIP grant, and it's basically for household hazardous waste, recycling, or food scrap collection. And every year, actually, it's a 5-year grant now. I just put it into household hazardous waste because that's our big nut.
It is our big nut. Okay.
Well,
All right.
besides me, but yeah, that's our big nut. I know it's a tough one.
Well, I still like the idea. Every time we've looked at it, Mike, we always run into that, who's going to staff it?
Yeah.
And you know, if the Alliance can carry the, whatever insurance is required, we'll lease the building to you for $1 a year. You know, it comes down to staffing. Can we find somebody to staff it? It would certainly be more convenient for everybody. Although Nancy, you guys have kind of come from the middle of nowhere to get rid of your stuff, but
I'm sure there's reasons to go to Bennington on the days they're open, or the townspeople can arrange their schedule to go on those certain days.
yeah,
Yeah. I don't think that would be a problem.
okay.
Another thing we could ponder doing is the Northwest Solid Waste District charges. They charge people, and we would certainly charge businesses if they brought material. We have found that we get an average of $5 a car from donations. So I think if we asked people either for donations or said, you know, hey, it's a flat fee, $10, I don't think very many people would turn around and go home because of that. So that could help too. If we had, you know, 500 cars and everybody gave us $10, that's $5,000. That's something.
Michael, what's the application date? Due
I
date?
think it's March 10th.
So, I mean, my thought, I think David may have kind of summed it up a little bit too, is why not apply? See if we can solve the issues. If we don't apply, you know, Wayne Gretzky, I love his quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
Applies just about everything in the world. But take a shot and, you know, maybe we don't even get the grant anyways. So that would solve the issue for us right there.
Yep.
And if we get the grant, we can see if we can piece together staffing. I haven't seen the building. I assume Stu has given us a good deal for $1 a year.
It's, yeah. Michael, when did you send out I got a copy of the application. Did you send that to everybody?
Yeah.
That shows you the building. Shows you
Yeah,
the,
it's got pictures.
yeah. And
It's even got a porch. It's even got a porch, screened-in porch.
Yeah, well, that's for the paint and everything, right?
Yeah. and the
Non-toxic
mosquitoes out there.
materials. It's a relatively small building, but I think it would work as long as you can schedule pickups relatively regularly. When did you send that out, Michael? I went back looking for it because so people could see it, but I can't find it fast enough.
Hold on.
Well, how about if we put a motion on the floor here for Mike to submit the application? And in the meantime, we can start researching these other questions because it'll be months before as this process is through. So let's find out about possible staffing while the application is going through. Because we can always turn it down if it turns out we're in the wrong place.
I'm game.
So you're making that motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor? Say aye.
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 Who seconded that?
Stu did.
Okay.
Any opposed? All right, I think it's a great idea. Let's go for it. And that company in Wilmington,
Yeah.
maybe we should look into that. That'd be great.
Okay.
Michael, I do have one small question. What are the other outfits you said that some of these have these? Who are they using?
Well, they have their solid waste districts. They have staff. So,
Okay.
I mean, they have people paid, and then the two that are just, well, actually the two that are building facilities now, yeah, they're districts too, so they will hire people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I don't know how they'll do that. They may just like what works in many cases is that you've got just like at your facility, you've got 3 guys working there. So 2 days a week, so and so takes care of something else. In other words, someone drives up and they have hazardous waste. You get out of the shed, go deal with it. It's not really an additional cost if you already have staff that are trained and can do that. But if you're, we don't really have that in any of our facilities. We don't have extra people that could just jump over and deal with that.
Mhm.
Stu, I didn't see that that report. I saw it a while back, but is that the building that's right on the road? The little.
No, that's the scale house. This sits directly at the back, just beyond the transfer station. It's a small concrete block building. It was used as a pump station when we initially closed the landfill. We were pumping PCB contaminated water out of a monitoring well and then disposing it back into a septic system. So it was basically it contained carbon filtering pumps.
Okay.
Had electricity, had heat. EPA ultimately allowed us to dismantle the pumps and do away with them because the amount of water underneath the landfill was rapidly decreasing. The cap was actually working.
Yeah, it flowed all down by my house on Houghton Lane when I lived there. I remember that.
Yeah. So it's a little concrete one at the back. It does have kind of a roofed porch at the back of it that I know Casella uses periodically for some of the stockpiling of materials that they're setting aside. But
sounds perfect.
I think it would work. It's not high. It wouldn't have a high capacity for storage, but you wouldn't want to store this stuff a long time anyway.
But we could get a couple of, we could get a shipping container for stuff that's not really problematic. Because the one advantage of the way this is working, it's only going to be in the summertime. We don't have to worry about heat so we're not going to have paint if we collect paint, which we don't have to, but if we did collect paint, we wouldn't have to worry about it freezing. And then we can we could probably outfit a shipping container or buy one of these flame-proof containers, which are pretty pricey if we're dealing with flammable liquids and the like.
Yeah.
We don't want anything to go boom.
No.
All right.
Michael, do you know of any other alliances that have their own household hazardous waste collection facility?
No alliances that I know of. No, they're solid waste districts, so they're organized differently.
So other districts have them and they run them themselves?
Yeah. And in fact, our residents are allowed to use the Rutland facility, though it's a long drive, so not very many people go. But I do get calls from people saying, I guess got to get rid of this stuff. Where do I go? And they can go to Rutland. Rutland will charge them for whatever it is. And Rutland is limited. There have been times when I've said, hey, can you guys take this? And they'll say, no, we're not going to be able to take that. So that's they're limited in some ways. Yeah, I think probably all the districts will, by the end of this year, have a facility. So yeah, it's the alliance. There aren't that many alliances. There's only like 4 or 5, and there are many independent towns that do their own thing. I don't know how many of those, if they have any kind of facility like that. Probably not.
We'll be the first, Nancy.
Hey.
Yeah, maybe you'll be a district by then.
Always good to be the first.
Okay, so we're moving on, is that what we're doing?
We should.
Moving on.
Okay, I'm gonna turn the mic over to Paula to summarize the reports we've sent out to you, did you get all those? I keep sending you guys stuff, you keep losing it. You gotta cut that out.
What about the Manchester composting facility?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you wanna talk about that, John?
Sure. I actually think this one's probably even less ready for prime time. We were hoping to have some more details. So we actually just tore down the old horse barn that used to be our maintenance facility at the park, and we built a new facility. And it has a large yard, and we've been talking with Carl Buchhold. I don't know if anybody knows him. He's with a couple different environmental groups in Manchester, and started talking about composting. At the same time, my daughter became a vegan and also an avid food recycler. So I am swimming in vegetable and fruit materials here at my house. We actually have a device that cooks it and turns it into compost in several hours. And I have 5 gallons already of dried compost here. So looking at the site that we have in Manchester, we thought we could dedicate some of the area in the fenced-in space to food scrap recycling. And of course, we don't have all the equipment that we would need. We had been looking at like a food grinder that would be PTO driven. We'd have various areas that we'd move the material through. And then right next to that is the community garden, pretty close by. And there's also some need for compost at the park that we could use. But basically what it boiled down to is Carl and I had talked to Michael. And then at one point we looped in Matt Proft, who's still in the area, and he ran the TAM site for a long time. The 1,000 to 1,500 square feet that we were looking at would only do 20 households. We were hoping to serve a lot more than that. We were hoping to make it more of a regional facility. So we're looking at some other areas at the park. We've looked at some other areas in town as well. And we've got some other sites, but the problem would be if we're turning anything over, or if we had to use a PTO to drive any equipment, there'd be a huge burden driving down to the site over and over again. We'd also have the same issue that we just talked about, which is how would we staff it? If it was at the park, we could have some of our folks do that. Some of the stuff that we've run into is, I think there's a large level of concern that if we don't have somebody there monitoring it really closely, we're going to end up with garbage in addition to food scraps. So that's kind of where we're at. I guess I throw it out there for some discussion. I think every single person here has residents who are struggling with what to do with all their food scraps if they're actually planning to implement the state law as it was written. I think most people just do not have enough, don't have enough capacity in their own house to take care of it. So I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts. We haven't given up on the idea of a facility here, but I think we ran into space and numbers. At 1,000 to 1,500 square feet, serving 20 households is just a drop in the bucket.
How many square feet would you need, John?
To serve a large regional piece. We're still working on that. I mean, we do have a place that we've looked at in the park that's actually on the east side of the football stadium that we'd have about an acre there that we could probably dedicate towards it. And that you'd be getting into, so how many square feet in an acre?
43,560.
Yep.
Wow. So now you're talking about, hundreds of households now. Versus 20 just seems like it's just not even a band-aid. And then of course we get into issues of who gets to be the 20 households. I mean, that would fill up. If I put something on Facebook saying, oh, we're looking for 20 households to contribute food scraps, it would be within the hour I'd have 20 people signed up for this piece. So at about an acre, I guess would probably, I mean, 1,500 square feet, I would have thought you get more than 20 households out of that. But Matt really knows his stuff. So I trust his guidance.
Well, John, you need space for like moving things around, and if you're going to use windrows, then they take up a lot of space, and so pretty much it's about half the space would be for composting, and the rest would be where you put your tractor or whatever.
Yeah, backing stuff up. And I guess we wouldn't have that much because we had figured out a way, Michael, down there to sort of we'd have the composting facility on one side and then some other stuff that we have down there on the other side. So I guess it would be more efficient than that. But does anybody have any people that are asking them about food scraps, food recycling, or?
Out in Sunderland.
I haven't heard, but so I can't help you there, John. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, we haven't either. We take a lot of food scraps at our transfer station.
What are you guys doing with them right now?
Oh, we have a contract. Part of our contract had been with TAM. We have several containers that are swapped in and out. I don't know the volume off the top of my head, but it surprised me how much we move in and out of there.
We do 1,200 a week, 1,200 pounds.
Yeah.
At least. It's always 3 containers and sometimes 4.
Wow.
I mean, we did like 7.5 tons or something like that. It's a quarter. It's amazing.
Do you have any challenges with people putting in material in there that's not supposed to be in there?
Oh yeah, we do. We have people throwing plastic bags in. We got to dig them out because they just go right in. We have trash dumpsters right there, so they just go right into that. But we have to take a hook or something because we're not getting into that.
Yeah.
But the people, they have those compostable bags, and so Casellas hasn't complained about those. So apparently they're okay. But we really try to tell people just to dump the stuff in there. Unfortunately, they bring 5-gallon buckets and I'll beat them up and down, and the stuff goes down onto the asphalt. Then we got to clean it all up, throw it back in, and so you just have to be a little more cautious with it. But it worked. I mean, we've been doing it since July 1st, 2018. We're kind of old hands at this, and it's worked out quite well. It really has. The one thing we're having trouble with this winter is the constant snow, and the truck that they use is absolutely helpless in the snow. So he's not coming in on Tuesdays now, and he waits till like Friday afternoon while we're open so that we can make sure he gets in and out. But that's been the only hang up on the whole thing. So I mean, it's worked out really well for us. We've done just tons and tons and tons of stuff. It's just amazing.
Every time I buy compost at work, we always end up getting some plastic forks in there and other things like that, like little bits of pieces. I think I don't think I'm really looking for anything from the Alliance right now. I think we'll keep working with Carl and Matt, and I'll keep you posted at the next meeting. I think it's something that we'll definitely look at. It's interesting. The conversations that we've had too is we've talked about. Obviously, my preference would be to be working with large contributors like our local schools and restaurants and things like that. Michael's comment on that, I think Carl's too, is that those organizations are pretty well taken care of at this point. It really gets down into, it'll eventually get down into the individual households where people are going to have challenges. And of course, from our perspective, that's the toughest group to work with too. I'd rather work with 5 restaurants than 200 people. As far as like volume, but I think that we'll keep working on it. Again, I don't think we have any real solution right now as far as how much space would have to be and how we would make it work both for our staff and for the equipment that we have without turning it into some huge operation. That's all I got, Michael.
Great.
I wish I had more. I'm sorry.
Well, it's good you're thinking about this stuff. But yeah, it's I mean, the big need is individual single family residents and condominiums and apartments. Though apartments will be taken care of by commercial haulers, have to take that stuff.
Yeah, another challenge we've had is when we look at our master plan for the park, Carl's like, oh, this would be a perfect area for what he wants to do, of course, but you know, it's an area that we've looked at for parking or for drainage or other things like that. So it's been a little bit of a challenge to find a space down there that hasn't been spoken for, either for some sort of program or some sort of infrastructure need in addition to this. And we have some land down on Ridgeville Road that we've looked at, but it's just so far away from any equipment that we have that we'd be constantly driving the loader or the backhoe down there to turn things over, to move things around. If we're going to process it on site. And that's our thought, is that we process it on site. If we were just trucking it out like Tom does, it wouldn't be as big of an issue, but it's the processing on site that we really feel like we need a lot of equipment to do that.
So do you have to grind the material? Is that important in composting?
You know, in what I'm doing at home right now, this thing grinds it and then dries it and turns it into a powder. But if you, I know that what Matt was saying is if you don't do that, you'll have some pieces in there that are going to be in there for a long time to break down. That if you take like a carrot and just chuck it in there, it's going to be there for a while. If you take a carrot and pulverize it, it's going to break down much quicker.
Yeah, I can see that.
Nancy, how's your system working in Stanford?
I haven't heard anything good or bad, so I'm hoping. I know the school is composting right there at the school, and then Casella picks it up there. And I know there's containers at the recycling area, but I don't know how many pounds, or haven't heard anything bad about it. So I'm hoping it's working.
Yep. Ready to move on?
Yep.
Paula, do you want to
Sure.
talk about your reports?
Okay. Hello, everyone. You will have gotten the Solid Waste Alliance 2020 annual report. It's a 2-page overview of how the year went. It was a challenging year because of COVID and trying to do actual in-person outreach. There were sort of slivers of windows in which I can actually get to businesses and talk to them without them not available or just harried with the other processes of actually managing their own businesses amid COVID as well. But we did meet all of our goals, and including that did outreach to 17 schools and had a number of outreach via webinars. I did a couple in November as well as December, reaching out to targeted areas that are not on the report but were part of the year end, including property managers and landlords, and then another one to homeowner associations and condo owners. Each of them have different struggles trying to manage food scrap diversion programs and getting them set up on site. I also did some larger rental facilities, larger apartment areas, targeting low income areas where we're trying to get programs set up and getting the property managers involved in the actual process of setting it up and getting the renters involved. And did some enticement by using some leftover buckets that we had from the food scrap setup we did for classrooms through a state grant, in which I distributed buckets to all willing schools that wanted them for classroom food scrap collection, and I used some leftover buckets there to get those sent out as a raffle to get people signed up for the webinar in person as well. We also did a lot of household hazardous waste collection, including 33 tons over the two events that we did this past year, as you know, making it an even more pressing need as we get more of these households involved in it. We did see an increase that you'll notice from this year over last year, and probably will with a third site added for 2021. In the latter part of the year, we continued to do compost bin sales. The they kept coming at us. Everyone wanted compost bins, and which was great. It was trying to fill all the need. When we thought we had a good distribution, we got more people asking for them. And after a certain point, we just had to close the garage door and say, we're done for the year, because it was getting to a point where it was sort of a trickle, and it would be ongoing, but it was good, clean, clear interest in it. As you can see, the numbers of soil savers, green cones, kitchen composters, and soil savers. They were all very popular, and surprisingly so. It was a very productive year getting more people diverting food scraps particularly. On my end, as sort of the wrap up, I did a redesigning of all the handouts that we used for outreach to just bring them up to a little more updated material, a little more eye-catching, and use as a basis for a website redesign, which we're getting ready to embark on in the next quarter after we get all of the quotes. We put out a request for quotes this past month, and they're trickling in, and the deadline is the 19th of February. And then Michael and you folks are going to go through and decide who's the best partner for us going forward as we make that change. We really want to emphasize that we have a platform that is flexible over many different devices, so that people who get on a phone, which actually is a vast majority of viewers to our website, can actually see the all the pages, and the functionality is quick and responsive. We also want to include more content into the website that allows people that are looking for our material from different entities, like property managers and educators and other events planners, things like that. And when they go and they need some quick answers on how to, do the best management, or they need quick answers to outlets for certain types of recycling efforts. We also did collating all the businesses of the last year. We did 43 business outreach during 2020, of which was added into the mix. So we are keeping a list of an ongoing 5-year collection of all of the businesses we've done outreach to. And we use that as part of priority setting for the year to come. So last year, the Alliance purchased a database to help us determine which businesses we were going to find among all the ones that are in the Alliance to target based on the volume, how frequent the last business visit may have been, and also determine just where they think they might receive the best use of the information that we could give them. And we set aside 100 priorities at the beginning of the year, and then from there we target to try to reach at least 40 of them to do the outreach. And part of that, again, is going to be via webinar, because we're still in kind of constrained situation where I can't go knocking on doors in some cases and reach everybody. So I'll be sending out to everybody a list of the dates that we're going to do for webinars later this month. Some just on food scrap diversion to help continue to make the information available to property managers and condo associations, but then just basic recycling for all of Vermonters, that help them understand all the different programs that are out there, because it's coming in from all different directions, and to some it could be quite confusing. So we try to simplify it. In addition, just some notes, February 18th is National Battery Day. That is a day in which we're called to cycle. That's the website that gives a lot of information about battery recycling. We are in the Internet of Things age. There are so many different types of batteries, as you well know in your transfer stations, the risk that they pose if we're not handling them carefully. And so what we're trying to do is just raise awareness. I can send out links as well to help you, if you can post it on your town websites to help get the word out. The lithium ion explosion, and I mean that in many ways, is in all the different devices that we use, and we need to do proper disposal of that. And the good news is Vermont is the nation's leading per capita recycler of batteries in the nation. So that is good, but we can always do better. So that is some things that we're working on. Let's see. I think that's probably what we're working on most right now. Michael, chime in if there's something I missed.
Nope, sounds good to me.
Okay. And if you have anything that you're hearing from your towns about concerns about just getting messaging across, it's important that we try to reach people. There's definitely always room for improvement and trying to get the word out. We're trying to make more use of Facebook through group sharing of posts so that people understand when our events are, as well as just understanding proper ways of recycling and, hey, did you know, kind of quick messaging, getting word out on Google and through our website, hopefully through when we do a redesign, it'd be a little more nimble for us to be able to update readily and make it eye-catching and draw more visitors. That's what we're hoping for as well. So if you get any feedback from your towns about things they need, or you'd like us to do even a presentation to community groups that you know of that meet regularly, we're happy to do that via Zoom, in person if we're outdoors or in a safe fashion. We're happy to help out any way we can.
Anybody have any questions? No? Dixie, you're muted. So the next thing on the agenda is hauler registration. So it's just a reminder, register your haulers. And if you could send me copies of whatever you get back, that would be great. And then
Haven't gotten Casella's back yet? I sent mine to Casella for him to register a while ago. I haven't heard anything from him.
No, they haven't registered here either. And usually they're pretty prompt.
Yeah.
there was someone, who was it? There was someone who did they contact? They contacted one of the towns and I told him he was going to have to register with everyone. I can't remember I would have to look up the person's name. Does anybody remember that, or what town they?
I just saw it today when I was going through stuff. I can't remember who it was.
Okay.
I can't either, Mike, but that's who I sent it to.
Okay. But he seemed like he was on the ball, but I guess I never even heard of the guy before.
Yeah. Has anyone ever heard of Weber? Well, suddenly I have all these Weber trash containers in town.
Is that a phone number?
No. It's almost like someone got them on wholesale.
The only one that we've been seeing more recently is All American. Anybody get registrations there?
Uh-huh.
They've been trying to.
Yeah, I think that All American, I think, is Bennington based.
Yeah.
And they were new a year and a half ago or so here. But I haven't actually received their registration back yet either, so.
They apparently will collect food scraps from the single family houses.
They will, yeah. I know that some people on my street, it's really, I think they're trying to create an alternative. I think Rob would agree too. Right now, it's just Casella in this part of this part of this. It's really the only option here. And they do have some food scrap. I forget what the deal is with the food scraps. Do you know, Rob?
No, I mean they. I don't think they do curbside at this point. At least not in Dorset.
Okay, maybe
They
they're.
are at the transfer stations.
I think they just bring it to Casella, food scrap.
If you know of any entity starting up that is doing food scrap collection, even if it's a one-man band with a pickup, let us know, because it is definitely a need that's not being met, really. And it's something that we're getting a lot of frustrated residents that are having a hard time with the few options that they do have presented to them to try to, deal with their food scraps. So we like to support businesses if they're going to help deal with our challenges that we have here. All more power to them.
So what's the challenge with the food scraps? Is it just the setup of the current trucks or just set up for two things right now? And that basically food scraps that have to send around a second truck?
Yeah, you'd have to basically create a new truck. A trash truck costs anywhere between $350,000 and $500,000, or
Yeah.
you'd have to do another route, and then you're paying for gas and staff and all that kind of stuff. And so they'd rather not do that if they don't have to. But there are some small organizations like I'd heard All American was doing food scraps, and then there's somebody from Massachusetts and another Vermont or something like that. They're further north, and they'll say they'll come here, but I haven't seen any indication that they do.
So right now, Casella comes to my house, they pick up one barrel, you throw it in, and they push everything, and then pick up the other barrel, put it on the other side. There is a truck that exists, I assume, that has the ability to pick up three things: recycling, trash, and then an area for food scraps, I assume.
They may not have the separate container for food scraps. That may be what they don't have.
Right, but the truck does exist, I assume. Somebody is.
Oh yeah. But not too many people want
to throw it out.
Yeah.
Trevor was telling us how expensive they were at one point. It's not a cheap investment.
Well, you heard Randy talk about the truck they just purchased, which was something like $900,000, I think he said. The food scrap collection.
It should drive
That
itself.
was
$1,000.
that was an electric truck, wasn't it, Michael?
I'm sorry, I'm losing you.
I think it was all electric.
Oh, was that the electric truck?
Oh, was it? Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, we're getting a grant for electric powered trucks, if I recall.
Well, the real invention would be to use the food scraps, like the professor on Back to the Future, use the food scraps to power the truck. Then I'd be really impressed.
Okay, household hazardous waste events. So we're gonna have 3, and on your agenda, I put the dates down. The May 8th event will be at Mount Anthony Union. They've allowed us to do that. The September 11th event will be at the Dorset School. And Nancy, this will be interesting to you. So we're going to do a event for Searsburg and Stamford, and I've worked it out that there's a AOT highway facility in Reedsboro, which is pretty close to you. I mean, the facility's close to you.
It's got to be the one that's right up on top by Alpenwall.
Yep. They said we could do it there.
Oh, that's very good.
And that's pretty equidistant between Searsburg and Stamford.
Yes.
So that makes sense to me.
It's a big yard. Yeah, that's good.
Now, one thing I've been asked, and I wanted to see if this is okay with everyone, is the Wyndham Solid Waste District asked if we could allow Reedsboro to participate in that, since it's in Reedsboro. They don't, last time we've done this with Paulet. We've let Paulet participate in our fall event, and basically we just charge them as if they're a town based on population. So I think their population in Reedsboro is
About
700 and something.
Yeah, I was going to say 775, 800.
Yeah. So I wouldn't expect a huge turnout, but if that's okay with the board, then we can invite Reedsboro to participate too, and that'll be another source of income for paying for the event.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Michael, on the May event, is that the middle school or the high school? You said Mount Anthony.
Oh, the middle school.
Middle school. Thank you.
Where we did it last year.
Right. That's what I thought. I just wanted to.
Yeah, that's just a great place with that giant long driveway.
Yeah, that worked out well.
So one thing I wanted to get some help with from all of you on is that in all of the events we've been doing, including these and the compost bin pickups and stuff, we do require people to wear masks, when individuals to come wear masks. And so if you could make sure that your residents know that, that would be great, because I know there are people who resist that concept, but it's basically, if we don't do that, then US Ecology, they could just pack up and leave, because they're required to be protected. And Paul and I and any of you all who volunteer need to be protected. So just let
I
people
think I
know.
only had 2 people last year, Michael, at the middle school. I only had 2 people that gave me a hard time about masking up.
Yeah. No, it's good. But, we seem to be living in a conflicted world. So
Yes.
Thank you.
The patrons aren't supposed to get out of the car.
no, they're not. But they should also be wearing a mask when they're in, because they're going to roll down the window and we're going to talk to them. So
Yeah, okay.
I actually have a whole box of masks that I can give out for free too. We got them as part of the COVID relief effort. They were giving out masks, and they're sitting, well, not in my office. They're in a storage area. So we can easily give people things like that.
I think that'd be a good thing to do, Michael.
Okay.
Have them available.
Yep. And if anybody's interested in, again, volunteering for any of these events, that would be great. Because especially with respect to batteries, it saves us a lot of money to
Jesus.
I'll
take
be there.
those. Yeah, I know. Well, hopefully it won't be as bad, because we'll have to figure out how to contain the Bennington police from dumping 400 pounds of batteries on us like they did last time.
And the worst part of that is the sergeant that sends us stuff is one of my customers here. And I said, well, one of the sergeants said, he started laughing because that was me. I said, you horse's ass, Chris. I said,
Chris is now retired too. Chris is just recently retired, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
well then,
Well, yeah.
I guess that's why I got rid of all the battery.
Yeah, he was in today, But speaking of masks, can I wear my good mask?
Certainly can.
Hey, Tom, you did.
My son-in-law got me that for Christmas, and my glasses won't steam up. It's got a very, very stiff spring in it. It's the best thing I've ever had.
No, good.
Probably got a hole for a straw too, doesn't it?
I could. I just took a whole bunch of these bags down to the liquor store the other day because they still give them get $1 off for the Wounded Warriors vets. So I did that.
Great.
There's a reason I get these.
Okay, so we have time for public comment.
I guess I'm the only public. I don't really have any comment.
Bruce McDonald's here too. I don't know if he wants to say anything.
Nope, just thanks for doing what you do. Just wanted to check out your world.
Bruce, you've been very still through this whole thing. That was very nice.
It's a Zen pose.
Did people see that internet story about the lawyer who was before a judge they were doing a Zoom courtroom meeting, and he apparently, his picture was of a kitten, and which he didn't expect, and so it's become kind of a viral story now. And he was trying to explain why he shows up as a cat in court representing his client.
I did see that. We've had Zoom meetings for about a year, and we haven't had any, there was the flush heard around the world, the Supreme Court briefing, where somebody didn't hit mute and was in the restroom and flushed the toilet. We haven't had anything like that really odd happen, or we haven't been bombed by anybody, nothing odd.
No, I've been lucky through all these too. I have a lot of Zoom meetings and no interference. It's been good.
So
Next meeting?
When you're
Next
on
meeting.
next meeting, yeah.
How often are we doing them?
We've been trying to do them quarterly. So this is winter. We could do one April, May, June, something like that would be good.
How about before Memorial Day? Does that make sense?
Before Memorial Day, yeah.
I'm sure we have all have travel plans after Memorial Day.
How about
Should we do it before the next hazardous waste meeting and then we can,
Yeah, I was thinking late April might be nice, Dixie.
yeah. I think that would be good.
I'm gonna do April 28th. That's a Wednesday. We like Wednesdays, right? Or did we like Thursdays? I can't remember.
Wednesdays.
Wednesday's good.
Okay.
Wednesday's good. April 28th,
28th is, works for me.
Sounds good.
good with
I
me
assume
too.
we'll probably still be on Zoom, though we don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna assume we will be.
Pretty certain we will be.
Yeah.
Certainly, I hope I can get a vaccination before that, too.
4 p.m. at the same time?
4 p.m. is good.
Sounds
Same bad time, same bad channel.
Sounds great. Is there any other business? Anything anybody wants to bring up? How about a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
All right. Everyone in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It's been great.
Thank you,
Thank you,
folks.
Michael and Paula.
Thank you
Good
all.
to see you, especially you,
Everybody
Steve.
stay
Good to see
safe
you.
now.
Yeah, you guys take care. Nice seeing
Stay
you all.
well.
Yes.
Good to see you
Michael,
again,
thanks,
Steve.
Paula.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye.
Take care. Bye, Tom.
Bye now.